All right, and welcome to another episode of the Off Call Podcast. We heard your feedback. I'm no longer going to be monotone.
Was the feedback only about you? It wasn't about me at all?
I didn't hear anything about you, Joe.
Oh, thank God.
No, more.
So you're going to hear
monotone.
so many inflections. I'm going to be so animated. Okay, welcome to the Off Call Podcast with Dr. Mike and Dr. Joe. This is our third episode, but don't listen to the
first two.
Don't listen to the first two.
This is our first episode.
Unless you want to hear a really monotone
Unless
story.
you wanted to, if your Calm app is down and you need something to fall asleep to, you can listen to the first two.
So this
It's
could
white
be
noise.
episode 1. Again, no medical advice. This is just for fun. Don't take anything we say seriously. We need a producer. We're not going to pay you. Hopefully a nice young gentleman. We'll pay you in lashes. Eyelashes. And by eyelashes, I mean whips to the eye.
We'll pay you in Ozempic.
Oh, yeah. Okay, and this is our first guest today.
Woo!
It's Dr. Marian.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, I haven't introduced you yet, but
You just said my name.
hold on.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
There's more. There's more.
Joe said no women on the podcast, but I convinced him.
I'm not a woman, though.
I
I'm
said,
like,
what do you think this is? A Secret Service?
Yeah. It's not that he doesn't respect women, he just doesn't like your opinion.
Oh,
well, now
come
that you
on.
said
This
it's
is
not that.
definitely something we have to cut out now
100% he
because
doesn't
this
respect women.
This is a conflict for me significantly. This is a terrible
I'm
thing
going to
to put
demand his
out.
respect.
Yeah.
They're kidding.
So, Dr. Marian, she is president and CEO of Medpop Apparel. Find her on Etsy. She's wearing the shirt right now.
This is my female physician shirt. Thank you. One of many designs, but keep going.
She's also a board certified pediatrician, although she never really wanted to go into medicine. So we'll get into that. You wanted to be an architect. We all know.
That's true. An architect.
You have to
an
choose
architect.
between your dad's job or your mom's job.
Be an architect. Yeah.
Yeah. So welcome, Marianne, to the podcast. Yay.
We're gonna, okay.
Okay, Marianne,
Yeah. Hi.
what is your favorite antibiotic and why is it azithromycin?
It's not. In peds, it's amoxicillin 100% all the way.
Okay.
No, azithromycin is the redheaded stepchild of the amoxicillin in the peds world.
Okay,
Yeah.
good to know.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
Next question. What else do you want to know?
well, you went to a Caribbean med school.
Yep.
Was that your first choice?
No, but it was the only realistic choice. I didn't do that great in college, not because I'm an idiot, but because I didn't take college very seriously. So
As we all did not.
I wanted a life and I had it, and the payment to that was a Caribbean med school, which I don't regret. I don't say that with any ill feelings at all.
I think we all said that. The
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
No.
Exact same thing.
No, it's exactly, I loved it.
I
Yeah.
feel like I'm only going to have Caribbean med school people.
You should. They are the best doctors,
change the name.
honestly.
You know, I was banned from the pre-med subreddit because some guy was asking like, oh, these are my step scores. Should I hold out to go to American med school?
No.
And blah, 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 blah. So I gave him my honest 2 cents. I'm like, obviously, if you have the chance to go to an American med school, go.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said all the benefits of Caribbean. The moderators banned me. You're not allowed to talk about Caribbean med schools in the pre-med subreddit. And he went
Are
into
you
this
kidding
whole
me?
spiel of how they're money hungry and it's not a real thing. It's some
It's not a
college
real
kid
thing?
that's running it. I'm like, why would you ban me for that?
What's not a real? Do they not exist? Did we not go to a school?
He's like, it's never the right choice to go to a Caribbean med school.
He's experienced. He
No.
knows. He knows a lot.
So I think he's some pre-med
Yeah.
kid running the pre-med subreddit.
Yeah.
That's probably right.
Give us his
And-
name.
Yeah, he banned me for 30 days. I'm going to contact him.
30 days. That's it.
But I'm not allowed to
You're
post
not-
anymore. I'm
you're
not
not
allowed. You're not
suspended.
allowed to promote Caribbean med schools or.
Okay, no, I'm
anything.
gonna go on.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, that's
Yeah.
I'm next.
Be like, hey, have you guys heard of this Georges? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
That's
very
funny.
American med school centric. I was just
Whatever.
like, hey, this is a viable option.
Yeah.
Just don't. I said don't wait a few cycles, a few years to go to an American med school. Just start right away.
Why are you lurking on these Reddit sites? That's kind of weird.
Well, I was gonna promote the podcast and all this.
Oh,
stuff.
got it. Okay, that makes sense. Well, I
And
was
try to
lonely.
find try to find content.
And you ruined it by giving your opinion.
And I like helping people because there's a stigma with.
There is a stigma,
Caribbean
which
med
is
schools
it's
and-
ridiculous.
Yeah.
No, we had a great education, had a great time.
We're doing well.
Loved it. If that's your option, don't feel bad about yourself. Take it, run with it. You're going to do just fine.
Okay, where'd
All
you
right.
go to residency?
Maimonides Infants and Children's Hospital in Brooklyn, New York.
And was it a malignant program?
No, I loved my residency.
Really?
Yeah, I loved my residency.
And
Yeah.
You were chief resident?
I was a chief resident, so it's a 3-year residency, as Peds is.
Mm-hmm.
And then I stayed on for an extra chief year, which is not in every program. Some chief programs are in the 3rd year, but it was an extra year. I got offered it. I took it because my husband had to do a PICU fellowship, so I had to wait for him anyway. And then, so I took so it all worked out.
Was he in the same residency as you?
No. He was in a different,
But pediatric residency.
he was doing his PICU fellowship.
Ah,
Yeah. So it all, and then so we kind of
matched up.
aligned our our paths. So I had a year, and I got offered, and of course I took it. It's an honor to be chief resident. It was a huge program. So we had 3 chief residents because we had 72 residents that covered 3 hospitals.
Wow.
Yes. So imagine
Wow.
doing the scheduling, and so it took 3 residents to run
Did you
that
have a lot of
program.
complainer?
Yeah.
Every program.
Yes.
Do you remember any of the worst complaints?
Yes.
Like what?
Oh my God. That's like a whole episode. We should just do chief resident complaint episode.
That's probably a good.
I had one resident. It wasn't a complaint. He got this is what he okay. So when you're on the peds floor, you're the 3rd year senior on the peds floor, which is like a big rotation for a 3rd year senior because you're like running the team.
Right.
And the attending's kind of just like watching over you, but it's like your time to shine, right? So you are running the interns, the 2nd years, the nurses, you're overseeing that everyone's doing what they're supposed to do. So it's a big rotation. This guy was 3rd year senior, and he was like, I need to leave the floor for a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
And right then I was like, no. But humor me and tell me why.
Let's go all the
I
way.
just want to
I'm
have
just
a
going to
laugh.
stop you right there.
I'm just gonna stop you right there,
It's not
but
gonna
just
happen.
I just want to have a laugh for today. And I'm like, why? Because it's my wife's birthday, and I forgot to buy her a cake, and I have to find a bakery to
Oh,
make
I
a
would've let him
cake.
go.
What?
Come on, let him go.
I looked at him
Yeah,
like,
let him
are
go.
you really? You are the floor senior. You're just gonna like leave to go to a bakery? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like.
That's because you're not a husband.
He looked nervous. He's
Yeah,
like,
I mean, that's
"Oh,
right."
okay. I mean, I
He's
guess
like,
I'll figure. I'm like, are you okay?
Is it my job or my life?
I'm like,
Yeah.
do you need a therapist?
It's like, you don't know my wife.
Yes, it was like that.
Why do you think I would ask you this? You know this is
It was-
ridiculous. You know I know this is ridiculous.
He's like, have you met her? I'm like, yeah, I did, but you're screwed. But I can't help. And I'm like, no. And then he got mad at me. Like I was the asshole. I'm like, no, you're the asshole. How can you say this with? That's like, that's the first one that comes to mind. There's a million others, but yeah. So I have to
Okay.
say no.
So you were in New York,
Yep.
and then you and your husband had to make a decision to move somewhere. Or was that decision already made?
That decision was made from the day I met him. I said, listen to me. I'm going back to, because, okay, I don't know if he told anyone this. I'm Michael's older sister.
We should have started with
We
that.
have
Allegedly.
the same. We have this. We have our parents. Okay,
Do we
so
look alike?
Yes, definitely,
people say so. I don't know.
Yeah.
definitely.
You wish. I don't know. Maybe. So our mom is also a general pediatrician who has a practice in California. So my plan was always to go back to California. No matter what, I'm going back to California to join the practice. So even when I met my husband in med school, I'm like, I'm going to. You're either with me or you're not. But I'm going back to
But did
California.
he believe you? He's like, okay.
Okay.
maybe.
We'll
That's
talk about
not
it.
my
We'll talk about
problem. You got to ask him if you believe. Like, I'm not. Yeah. Even though I got offers to stay in, I got really nice offers to stay in New York, but I was
But
made a
would you
prom.
have been working in a hospital system? Or have you
No,
been practice?
okay. So when I was chief resident, I moonlighted with a general pediatrician, Dr. Jordan Myers.
Mhm.
Shout out. He's not going to see this. He's probably like 90 years old now.
We're going
but-
to send it directly to him.
He's going to be like, who? What? So once a week, he hired me kind of off the books to do 5 to 10 p.m. once a week, like his after hours calls. He had a private practice.
Mhm.
Just
So-
cash pay.
I didn't see anything. No, he did pay me. But and so at the end, he's like, I'm really getting good feedback from my patients. He's like, I've never offered this to anyone, but I would happily hand my practice over to you. And he was probably like
Wow.
late 70s at the time. So
Late
now,
70s.
I mean, he was old.
and he was working.
working
Full-time.
Full-time,
Private
private
practice.
practice.
Wow.
Yes, he had like maybe one NP, but nobody really liked her. But I mean, she wasn't that great. But he's like, I'm really impressed with you. You're really good with the patients. I would be. He basically was like offering me his practice.
Mhm.
And this is an interesting story. He's like,
For
and
a
he's like,
price.
yeah. And I'm like, well,
I
what's
really
that?
like you. This is
Yeah.
my practice.
Well, he's like, listen, and he sat me down. He's like, I know you're going to go back and work with your mom. I think that's a terrible decision. I know that's a decision you're going to make, but you're making a mistake. Right? Like business-wise, you're making a big mistake because you will never be an employee. You will always be her daughter, and she will always just treat you as like, this is my daughter, and it's not going to be clean business. It's going to be like, come on, just take my shit. Like all this under the table finagle. And he's like, I'm ready to offer you my practice. He's like, I wouldn't even really sell it to you. I'll just hand it over. Like
Wow.
I don't need money. And
you should have
Wow.
definitely
I
taken
know,
that
and
deal.
I was
What
like,
are you
and he's like,
thinking?
I know you're gonna go to California. I'm just putting it out there. So I could have stayed in New York, but yes, to answer your question, yes, I did drag my husband kicking and
Okay.
screaming back to California. He didn't want to, but
So a
He's a-
simple yes would have sufficed.
well, sorry, I thought this was a podcast.
Just kidding. Okay, so you came to California.
Mhm.
Your husband had to find jobs here as a pediatric critical care attending,
Yep, intensivist. Yeah.
intensivist.
Mhm.
So you started working for our mother, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
How is that? Working for a family member, because the guy that was going to sell you his practice didn't want his daughter.
That is a heavy question.
And mom's going to hear this. So
Nah.
it's time to air your dirty laundry.
Airing of grievances.
I should just cancel my therapy session because it's gonna just take the place. Okay. Mom was very like but like I thought I was like, come on, give me some cash. And she was like, you are starting at the base salary for.
That's so good.
I'm like, come on, Mom. And so I was trying to milk it, like, come on, you're my mom. And she's like, no. And I was like, oh, that's a twist. I thought it was going to be easier. Oh, okay. So she really started me at like the bottom of, what the pay scale was.
Do you
And
mind saying what that was?
it was, I think okay. Do you want a simple answer? It was 110. It was supposed to be 120.
Is that on par with California?
I think this was like 12, 13 years ago. So yeah,
Okay.
probably back then, yeah.
Okay.
She started me at 110 and she's like, I will raise you every year. And she's like, this is going to be all yours. And
That's right.
what's the big
That's right.
deal?
What's the big deal?
rush? And
Yeah.
da-da-da-da-da. And so, yeah, so every year she raised me and then eventually she gave me shares of the corporation. I did not have shares
bonuses
initially.
come.
Yes, I was just an employee, and I was happy to have it. I'm like, I didn't know, but I came out of New York making what, $50,000 as a resident, $60,000 as a resident. So I was
110
like,
seems very low.
110 is very low, but at the time she's like, here's the stats, and she sent me like, this is it for California.
Were you working full time?
No, initially she had another NP, so I was only working, and she didn't like want to fire him right away. So I was working probably like 3.5 days a week,
Okay.
That's plenty.
which was fine. And then she eventually fired him, and then I worked full time, and then she like totally took off on like a 3-week vacation. I was like, wait, what? I was like, where are you going? And then she kind of like threw me in the deep end, and I was still like, you can't leave me. And she did. And then that's when I I don't know, got my sea legs. And then I was like, oh, I could do this. And then she really took advantage of
That's
that.
right.
She's like, you
That's
got
good.
it.
You
So
got it.
I got another trip coming up. And then she just like tossed me the keys and like bounced.
Good.
She went out for a pack of cigarettes and never came back. And then she just like started to barely come in. And she's like, you got it. And that's when I started like, something's off here. My paycheck doesn't match my. And so that's when it started getting fuzzy. But she made me really work in those first few years. Yeah.
Good.
We're good now. But yeah, my shares went up. My income has gone up significantly. So we're happy. Yeah.
Would you ever work for a hospital system?
Never.
So you're all private practice.
I do not miss the hospital system. No.
Mom always says she gets offers to get bought out.
Yeah, we do.
And there's no like incentive to take it.
Because
or
if we
anything like that?
because if we get bought out, I would have to be an employee of the new company, and my salary would be like probably half of what I get now.
Okay.
Yeah, they would cut. They would chop us off at the knees.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So no, that's never gonna happen until I retire.
And then you're gonna sell it.
If there's no one else to take it over, sure.
Well, maybe one of your kids.
I doubt it. Doesn't look like it's going that way, which is fine.
It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're practicing in California. You love it.
Mm-hmm.
You've been doing it for 12 years.
Yep.
Is there anything about pediatrics you dislike or that you didn't see coming or that you didn't see in residency or someone to give advice to a new pediatrician?
Okay, yes, because I trained in New York, which is a different system than California. And when you're training in like a hospital program, everything seems just really like streamlined and easy. And then when you're in private practice, California is really tough with like HMOs, IPAs. I didn't understand that you would like have to get permission for every little like you have to get a referral and an authorization. It's like a lot slower. Yeah, the system is broken.
Yeah. That's the whole medical system.
The system is broken. I feel some days I literally say out loud, I'm like, guys, we're not even practicing medicine.
No,
We're just
I
checking a
feel that
box. And it
Insurance
feels
companies, that's right,
terrible.
right.
And it's all the insurance companies, which is people don't talk. We as physicians don't talk about this enough. I don't know. I think we need to like vote on some good candidates to like revamp our healthcare system. But like,
Yeah, we can't unionize, so
I can't.
Wait,
Why not?
why can't we unionize?
The nurses can. We can't.
we can't. Physicians
I
can't.
don't think we
Really?
can.
No, we can't.
We would have by now. What don't you think?
No, I think we just like we can't
Pushovers,
organize because we
yeah.
just want to like
Yeah.
work and we just complain on the physician Facebook group.
Yeah,
and,
they
like,
expect us to be altruistic and like the joy is patient and I'm like,
Yeah, really.
it's
Is
not
there a really
working.
hard line, or have they convinced us that there's a hard line?
I
like
think
we can't
being-
unionize. And we're like, oh,
I thought we could,
guys,
but we're
are
just
we
lazy.
being duped? Did we just stumble upon?
this is definitely getting deleted.
Wait a minute. Yeah, so I didn't expect like everything was going to be such like pulling teeth with some things that really affect patients' health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I see it in the hospital
Yeah.
too. I'm sure Joe sees
I mean, at
it.
some point you realize you work for insurance companies.
You work
don't
for insurance companies.
Hospitals, you don't work for yourself. You work for insurance.
It's
companies.
terrible. I mean, because we get audited by IPAs to make sure we're like on the up and up, and the checklist of these audits don't even make medical sense. They're like, "Do you have an infant gown?" I'm like, "An infant? Who's putting an infant in a gown?" I'm like, "What are you talking?" I'm like, "Who came up with the
Yes.
checklist?" I'm like, "Is there a physician on your committee that's coming?"
Yes.
An
definitely.
infant? No, because they come to the office and like, show me your infant gowns.
I
I'm like,
mean-
a what? I'm like, it's a diaper.
Yeah, that's not an infant gown.
Make sure the patient's in a gown. I'm like, yeah, it's a pamper
Really?
diaper. What are you
Yeah,
talking
what?
about? It's
Yeah.
bizarre. Do you, what is it? There's some crazy one that, fluoride on the teeth. Are you applying fluoride varnish on infants' teeth? I'm like,
What?
do I look like a goddamn dentist? What's the dentist doing? Why am I
Yeah,
doing
if
that
I'm
job?
doing this.
Oh, well, and I even said, I'm like, dock me the point. I refuse. I'm like,
put
dock me the
fluoride.
point.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Honestly,
Dock
how are
me
you
the
gonna
point.
sell
This
that
is
too?
crazy.
I don't know if I would. Buy
I'm like,
into
never in
that.
my
No.
residency. I don't even know what fluoride varnish looks like. I've never seen it. I've never been trained in
right.
it. So they're like, oh, well, I'm like, dock me the point. I don't care. I'm not doing it.
And that's it. And you get paid less.
Yeah. Or
Less
yes, you're
bonuses.
not compliant. And I'm like, well, you have to get like a certain score. So I'm like, we're passing, but I'm like, I will take
The
dock the
doctor.
point just out of
Really?
a principle.
And these are the IPAs.
These are the IPAs. So I'm
What
like,
does IPA stand for?
oh God.
Indian Pale Ale. India Pale.
Something
Yeah.
physician
Yeah.
it's like a
Independent
it's
So
like
they have a
the,
group of patients.
no, an IPA is like
They don't even know.
no.
Nobody knows.
It's like
We work
something
for the IPA.
physician, something. It's like an overseeing company of insurances that have sub insurances. So like we take preferred IPA, and under preferred they have Blue Cross and Health, like Blue Shield and and Medi-Cal, and so they're like insurance companies basically.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was going to work in your office, I was getting credentialed with the IPA.
Yeah.
And they were asking me the most
Of
random
course.
questions.
Yeah.
Like
And
what?
They're
like,
like, what's your favorite color?
they wanted me
Wrong.
they wanted me to write a personal statement.
again?
I'm like,
A
why?
personal-
Why
I've
do you
never had to
We
do
always
that.
write personal statements. Every
Why do you
chapter of
care?
our
Like-
lives and our careers, we've written personal
Nobody's
statements.
reading them.
No.
I'm like, here comes the meningitis.
every time.
You're like, thought you'd never ask. Turn the lights. Spotlight.
And they wanted me to get letters of recommendation from other
Oh my
primary
God.
care doctors
Oh
in the
my God.
community. And it was
It's just silly. I don't know who's on these. I don't know who's making these guidelines. It doesn't make any sense. But we are working for these IPAs, so that's the saddest part of my job.
So they provide you with the patient pool, and you play.
And
by
I
their
have to cater
rules.
to. I have to play by their rules. Yeah, which is counterintuitive and nothing makes sense and it wastes time and yeah.
So getting something like, say, a kid needs a certain special test or procedure. Do you have to go through them first, or can you just order it?
It's you got to give me a specific example. Like lab tests, no.
What about just an MRI of the brain?
MRI? I have to get an authorization.
Really?
And that'll take well, if I order it stat, even stat, there's a 72-hour turnaround.
Really?
Huh.
Yeah. But that's where the ER gets abused, right?
Right,
So
right,
like,
right.
just go to the ER,
Yeah,
and they're
yes.
like, the ER was like, this is not our problem. You should have got an authorization. Well, I was like, well, I can't get an authorization. So it's just like,
Yeah, this okay.
Which brings me to my next question.
oh,
You have a gripe with the ER.
I hate. No, there's a certain. Do you want me to name the ER?
You don't have to.
No. Okay, there's an ER. Yes, I have a gripe with the ER because not all ERs. There is one ER that I send all my patients to, and I will name them. That's Miller's Children's Hospital in Long Beach. They are very gracious. But that's a children's hospital ER. So I usually encourage my patients to bypass these smaller ERs that are like fine, and I get it. They're overrun with like stupid URIs that I could handle, but I'm like, but I'm also allowed to be booked. Like
Yeah,
that's
that's right.
not. I'm allowed to like have a capacity.
Right.
So yeah, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, so. But there's a lot of bounce between primary care ERs, and because they unfortunately take the spillover. But
So
What are you
this
gonna do?
certain ER
yeah,
says you're abusing their system.
they told one of my patients, you need to get another pediatrician because all she does is dump her patients
Oh,
in the ER. And I was like, stop the wreck. There is no way I'm dumping anything. If anything, so my patients have full access to me, and this is part of private practice. You are the only physician, so you have to be basically on call for your patients
Right.
24/7 because you're the
Right.
only one, right? So I have an after hour. I mean, they can page me anytime, 24/7. They can email me, and I use my email kind of like a telehealth. I'm like, just send me a photo of the rash. I just need to see it. I can just send medication,
Wow.
and I can even bill for a note on that. I will write
Yeah.
a soap note. So I'm like, if my patients decide to bypass all of that because they're anxious about a runny nose, how's that?
Yeah, no.
How can I
No.
just be gracious? I don't know. So yeah, I wrote a letter to that hospital, and it went nowhere because the person I was complaining about is also chairman of the ER department.
The one who reads those letters.
And I'm like, what? I don't need to hear back from him. I need to hear from his superior. It was handled
so he
terribly.
never got back to you, and it went nowhere.
Oh no. So I I was complaining about 2 specific attendings because my patients are like, and even my patients were like, don't say that about my doctor. She's amazing. Like, no, I came here. She didn't tell me to come here. I came in. Okay, whatever. They're very nice about my name and my reputation. But I'm like, how can you tell my patients you need to find, like, that's so unprofessional. Like, just keep your opinions to yourself and treat your
I
patients.
think it's also illegal.
I know, and I'm just like,
It's also illegal.
well, when you're staring at a patient, like, oh, I'm here for a fever. Who's your doctor? How come you didn't call? Like, they just start to get, and I'm like, that's not how to. You can't talk to people like that. I was in an ER in New York. We never, ever spoke ill of any other attending ever in the community
I think
to the patient. Never.
Yeah. Especially older physicians, they used to say that in rounds and that sort of things. Like, we're physicians, we're on each other's back. Not anymore. The new generation, not anymore. No, we're all.
And I'm like, how? I
never. I have no idea because they would say, like, we're physicians. We don't talk to each other that way. We don't badmouth each other. We are in the same team. We're partners.
We are in the same community, handling the same patient.
That's right.
You help me, I help you.
If you're not on my team, then who do I have on my team? The
100%. I'm like, you're an extension of my practice. If I'm closed, I'm sorry. You have to take my spill. That's just what Peds ER is. You need to know that going in. So if you're shocked that you're seeing a 3-month-old with a runny nose, then you're in the wrong.
That's right.
You don't have the mentality
Welcome
for
to
it.
the world.
So anyway, so I wrote a letter. So I complained by name about these 2 attendings. One attending happened to be the chairman of the ER, which I didn't realize. And I sent a letter in naming him. And like, he said this and he said that, and that's so unprofessional, and that's so disrespectful. And I got a letter directly back from him. And I'm like, whoa. And he's like, excuse me. And it was so rude. And so, like, he didn't admit to anything. And I'm like, dude, this is the most toxic thing. But okay. Anyways.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just realized we forgot to do the intro.
Wait, what?
What was our intro? This is a good time to do it. This is a good time.
I still need to edit this and put some cool off-call things. Okay, and that's enough.
Okay.
And let's get started.
You could have faded it a little. You're like...
I feel like this is that Seinfeld episode where Kramer has the Merv Griffin set in his apartment.
That's funny.
And he's like, now back to you. Okay, so going back to peds, there's all this talk about vaccinations.
Oh, God.
Of your kids. We all know they're very important and you need them. Has your thought process or the way you vaccinate now changed at all in the recent years?
How much time do you have for this topic? Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, where do you want me to start?
Elaborate.
Okay. All right. Well,
It's a
so yes.
podcast,
So general peds, half of your day is checks and vaccinations. Right. That's literally half of your day. Okay. Which I believe in. I don't want to go on record as an anti-vaxxer at all. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I do believe vaccines are protective, effective, important, safe, all that stuff. However, I used to be very passionate to the point of judgy. And I think you general pediatricians out there know what I'm talking about. When someone doesn't want to vaccinate their kid or want to spread them out because of the toxins, you're just like rolling your eye. You're just like, oh my God, what an idiot. And I immediately, in my early career, I was like, you're just uneducated and stupid and a conspiracy theorist, and you're not doing right by your child. And I would spend 20 minutes just going toe to toe with these people. And I did change some people's mind. But most of them were like, no. And I'm like, okay, fine. And I just walk out. I'll be like, this one's not vaccinating. And we'd all like have a laugh and roll our eyes about that patient. I'm very judgy. And I was like that for most of my career until the pandemic.
Right.
Which pandemic are you talking about?
What are we talking about?
The 1901 Spanish flu. No, the COVID pandemic. And in the beginning, I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. And then when the vaccine came out, I was like, thank God there's this vaccine. And this is the only way we're going to get out of this thing if everyone gets vaccinated. Okay. You look like you need to say something.
No.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't need to say anything.
Okay.
It's no podcast.
So, in the beginning, and listen, my nurses who I love, they're all Hispanic. So and there was barely anyone coming into the office. So they were watching like, Univision, like TV. And they're like, there's like a rumor that this thing was like all planned. I'm like, there's no way they would kill, like, there's no way. And I was like, I've changed obviously since then. But, and now there's this vaccine, and do you think it's safe? I'm like, of course it's safe. Don't be an idiot. Like, it's the only way out of this thing. Like, we got to get back to normal life, so just get vaccinated, And then, and I got vaccinated. I got 2, and I got a booster. And I vaccinated my kids that I regret now.
Why do you regret it?
Because they didn't need it, and was not studied on kids at all. And the CDC and the World Health Organization and everyone, I think, just used us as pawns in their scheme because we would blindly, of course I would follow the CDC,
right.
Of course I would follow the World Health Organization. That's my bread and butter. Of course I would follow the American Academy of Pediatric guidelines and this and that. Who am I to go against them? They're that's who taught me everything. Right. So.
But the reason was for herd immunity or for protecting the kids?
I don't even know, honestly. I think it was for protecting the kids, but they're like, it was like a whole thing. So at that point, I believed in the COVID vaccine, and they're like, do you think it's safe? And I'm like, of course it's safe. And they're like, there's this new MNR, and I'm like, it's fine. They tested it, but like, did they really test it? And you want to do right by your community.
Right,
you want to do your job, and you want to. We were all such well-intended physicians.
That's right.
We did want to do right to our community and our patients, and get out of this thing, and World Health, and and it's funny. I mean, looking back, anyone that like, if you think about it, any nurse or physician that like even had like, but is it safe? I mean, they were like vilified. I mean, you couldn't even finish a sentence.
Correct.
I mean, people lost their jobs.
Well, particularly in LA. Particularly in LA, because we are it's a left-leaning community, whereas other communities in the States were not the same, and actually probably would fall on the other side of the coin. I think it's just maybe it's geographic, but yes, you're absolutely right. This geography, absolutely.
I mean, you remember like. If you were a physician that was questioning, you would make the news. Like this physician, and people would they would know your name.
That's right.
And so you couldn't even have an opinion otherwise. We were funneled into this one opinion.
That's true.
And if you didn't follow this opinion, you were ostracized. People lost their licenses. People lost it. So you didn't even have the mental capacity or emotional capacity to even think otherwise. And so, and that was by design. Now looking back, I'm like, that was by design. Okay, got it. So we were these well-intended physicians that were giving these COVID vaccines, and then the vaccine came out for my kids. And then my husband and I were like, yeah, let's vaccinate them. But we were like, and we did it because I felt as a pediatrician, people were going to look to me and be like, did you get it for your kids?
That's true.
And I was like, and I couldn't say no. I wouldn't give that to my kids. And then they're going to be like, well, why? Do you not believe in it? Is it not safe? And then it was like,
ask for it for my kids?
Exactly.
You can't.
So I felt like I had to kind of like throw my kids in just to be an example. And of course I gave it to my kids. And just to say that, because I knew I was going to be asked in every room. Okay. So that's why I vaccinated my kids. They did fine with it. Thank God. I mean, so far they're okay. Let's see if they can have children later. Let's see what comes up in 25 years.
And everyone just wanted to get back to normal life.
Everyone just wanted to get back to normal life. And that's what we kept hearing. If we want to get out of this is the only way out. And I was like, yeah, sure.
The incentives were great. The incentives were
great. And the manipulation was, well, of course we're not going to force it, but if you don't get it, you can't go to a restaurant, you can't go to school, you can't go on a plane, you can't go to this, you can't do that, you can't. So it's like, well, then I have. So I basically have. So it's not really a real choice. Okay, so. And we're big travelers. So Mark was like, well, we got to go on, we got to get out of here. So just vaccinate them because we had a trip to somewhere, Mexico or something. He's like, well, I'm not going to not go. He's like, just vaccinate them. And it was fine. And they both got two shots. And I did get asked a lot. And I said, yes, of course. And I even put a video up like, guys, it's fine. But here's where I stopped. I refused to order it in my practice, and I did not give it to my patients. And guy, I don't know what it was. It was like my higher consciousness, like my third eye was like, do what you want to do personally. Yeah. Do not give it to your patients. And I didn't even understand why I was feeling that way. And I never ordered it. And Pfizer would be in my office like every couple of weeks. Why aren't you ordering? Don't you want to spread community? I mean, they were pushing this thing hard. And I said, I just don't think I need to give it because it's so accessible. It's like in every CVS and Target pharmacy. So it's not like if they don't get it from me, I'm not hindering care. They could just go down the street and get it. My kids didn't get it from me.
Right.
So I was like, it's so accessible. I don't need to give it. But why? But what don't you want? And it's like, but they trust you and they want to get it from you.
Let's be clear, COVID wasn't a terrible disease in children. It wasn't severe.
Not at
there was no
all.
ARDS. It was cold-like symptoms.
Not
for
at
children.
all. She was like, there's been 300 deaths. I'm like, around the world? Like what? That's
7
it?
billion people, 300.
I'm like, are you kidding me?
Right. Yeah,
that's what you're, and so then I was like, this is bizarre.
So a lot of it was pushed as herd immunity, like vaccinate your kids so you can protect the adults. I don't agree with that part.
Yes.
You shouldn't protect adults by
vaccinating a 6-month-old.
It should be the other way around. We should protect our kids
100%.
first, and then we think.
What was the earliest age you could give it to?
I think it was 6 months.
Oh my goodness!
But it wasn't just the vaccine during that time either. It was also taking the kids out of the school, putting them in environments that were unsafe for some of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. The schools shut down completely.
And then you had kids going to homes that were not safe.
Sure.
And that have parents who were maybe abusive, but schools were able to kind of see that early on, or not being able to see that, and kids were dying, going into ER more because of other issues, not COVID.
100%. Yeah.
So we ended up very much hurting the children,
failing our kids
because we're trying to protect the adults. It didn't make sense.
It didn't make any sense.
You hear my kid screaming right now. She was vaccinated.
That's
She's not well.
She cries like almost every day.
It's weird. So Pfizer was in my office like a lot, and they were just like, are you like, why? And and the next time she would come with her supervisor, and this men in suits would be in my, why aren't you? Right. Yes. And I was like, I don't need to do it. Right. It's down the street, and I just don't. But back then, they're like, you got to get a certain fridge, and it's got to be. It was like kind of complicated, and I'm like, I don't want to mess. Like, I just don't want to deal with all that. Yeah.
And what you're saying is absolutely like it's not that everybody's getting into a meeting and having this. When interests align, you don't need a formal meeting for it.
You don't need a formal meeting, but they wanted everyone to be giving this vaccine. That's right. And you were not. And if you said no, like I said, they're like, what's wrong with you? What don't you want? Like, this is your job to community health and vaccinations. So what was interesting was that, it did occur to me then, but it really hits different now that we're out of it and I'm looking back. So we get reimbursed and we can bill for giving a vaccine. It's called an administration fee. It's on the billing sheet, but the administration fee for giving a vaccine and a normal visit would be like if I gave it like a polio vaccine, it'd be like $8. Like we don't make money off of it because we have to buy our own syringes and needles, so we break even basically. Right. So so our older brother Ryan runs my mom and my practice. So he was like, the administration fee per vaccine. So if a normal administration fee was $10 for, like, let's say Hep B, what do you think they were going to give me per COVID vaccine?
Should be no more than that.
$40.
Wow. 4 times the amount. 4 times
per vaccine. And Ryan was like, and Ryan's not a doctor, he's a businessman. He's like, it's up to you. Do you want to do this? And I'm like, I don't care. I just don't feel, and I don't know why. I'm telling you, it was just a gut intuition. And I'm like, I don't care how much they're going to give me. I just don't feel right about it. I don't want to do it. And he's like, no problem. I just want to let you know it's a lot of money. But then I was like, well, that makes sense because, well, it doesn't make sense, but I met a Medi-Cal office, meaning I get paid whether patients come in per patient. We get a capitation fee. This might be a California thing. So we did fine. We didn't lose a lot of money during the pandemic because we were still getting paid per patient from the IPAs, which is fine. But a lot of offices in California, these fancy PPO offices or fee-for-service offices, really a lot of them went out of business because if patients are not coming in through your door, you're not getting paid. It's like a fee-for-service office or a PPO. So Pfizer had their foot on their neck, and they're like, this is how you can stay open and make revenue, is if you turn your clinic into a vaccine. Just by giving vaccines all day,
you can make a business.
You can stay afloat because we're going to pay you so much per vaccine. And then it's not just one. You need the second one, and then you need a booster.
That's
right?
Yeah.
So if you just vaccinate a family, you have made $200 right there. Just in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So, man, kudos to Pfizer. They really have some people working up there that really thought this out, but I don't know. I never did it. And so looking back, I was like, those assholes, I swear to God. And I'm really patting myself on the back, and I'm like, I'm so happy. Yeah. And I regret vaccinating my kids. I regret getting the vaccine too. I don't think I really ever need it. We all got COVID anyway. We were fine.
Yeah. I had COVID last week. My whole family did. It ran a train through us.
All right, so that's our show. I know. I have patients calling like, we're positive. I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, you don't have to whisper it anymore. It doesn't. Nobody cares. It doesn't matter. Yeah. So
did it change the way you vaccinate people for other vaccines?
Oh, interesting question. Okay. So yes. So now I'm like, wait a minute. The same institutions that roll out vaccines rolled out this COVID vaccine that I don't agree with. That was sold as safe. So now it was like a crisis of consciousness. Do I have to look at every vaccine I'm giving? Am I really doing right by my patients? It was a hard question to ask myself. This is what I do.
Right.
So.
And is it okay to make that decision?
So what do you think of people that stagger their vaccines?
100%. Okay. This is my, I completely changed. This whole thing changed me as a pediatrician. So yeah, I used to be judgy and snarky and rolling my eyes. And now my thing is, listen, you are the parent.
Right.
You do whatever you feel is right for your child. I'm just here to give you information. I'm not here to sway you either way. Right. The rest of the vaccines are safe and effective. Right. And I did go through this like, oh my God, we're killing our children. And then I kind of calmed down and be like, okay, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. They're fine. I've been vaccinating kids for 13 years, and I've had one adverse reaction. One child broke out in hives after some vaccine, but that was really the worst thing I've ever really witnessed. So, I'm not saying don't get vaccinated, but I'm saying yes, there is a lot of stuff out there that you can read. But so when people used to say, like, I did my own research, I'm like, oh God, here we go. They did their own research. Like, what did you read? Yeah, some mommy blog from some girl in like Humboldt. Yeah, like was bored and like shared her thoughts on a blog, and that's where. Yeah. But now I'm like, listen, I'm just here to tell you what I have to offer. You make your decision. Do you want to go on schedule? Do you want to stagger them? And I'm like, will do whatever you want. This is your child.
But what about for kids enrolling in schools with those rules?
So the second part of that answer that I give patients is, however, you are in the state of California. So I just need you to know that the day this child starts school, they need to be fully vaccinated. Right. That's just the state we live in. Okay. So, and I cannot exempt you. I cannot write a letter. I cannot exempt anything. I can't do anything for you. So we can go as slow and fast as you want, but the day this kid starts school, kindergarten,
we have to hit them all.
You have to have every single vaccine that they're requiring. And just so you know that. And so we can go as slow and just make sure that they're vaccinated for school. If you're not comfortable with that, you're going to have to move. You're going to have to leave. And I've had patients leave the state.
Where would they go?
Texas, Florida, Arkansas.
Oh,
Yeah.
See, those other states that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And they'll move. And I'll be like, good luck.
But is there a loophole where you could age out of a vaccine?
Yes. So, this is some insider information. So what ends up happening, so there are some families that are totally wary about vaccines, and I'm nervous, and the formaldehyde and the aluminum, and I'm like, okay, got it. And this is insider stuff, guys. So this is deep, dark. So the longer you wait, so the older your child is when you start vaccines, they will age out a lot of the doses. Not the vaccine itself. You still need MMR, varicella, Hep B, polio, and DTaP. Those are the 5 that you need to start school. You don't need everything we offer. And I will be totally transparent. I used to not be transparent. I used to be like, you need everything, just get everything, don't worry about it. But you need like 4 to 5 doses of each. Let's say 3 to 5 doses of each thing. The longer you wait, you will age out of some of those doses. So maybe you only need 3 instead of 4 if you start vaccinating at 3 years old. It's like oh yes, oh yeah, oh ah.
Do you have anyone that's not vaccinated, like homeschooled or anything like that?
Yeah.
No vaccinations.
Yeah.
Not even the ones at birth.
I don't think so. I mean, no.
Just a vitamin K. And
Just a vitamin K and some erythromycin, and they went on their way. Yeah. They're like, thank you. I think so. I don't know. I want to say I think so. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head. But I will say they're not going to start school. But if you want to homeschool, if you already decided you're homeschooling your child,
then
we don't even have to have this conversation.
Yeah.
So they're like, which one is mandatory? I'm like, mandatory in what sense? It's only mandatory to start school. Right. So, I mean, I want you to be vaccinated against all of these diseases. These all are not great. Right. But mandatory, I mean, I'll tell you what I would not want my child to have. Right. So there's no such thing as mandatory unless it's government sanctioned.
Have you ever seen any bad outcomes for someone that's not vaccinated, like whooping cough or measles?
Honey, I've seen whooping cough in people that were fully vaccinated. So whooping cough is always around and not going anywhere. So people think that if they're vaccinated, there's no way they're ever like these vaccines are not 100% effective.
Yeah, my hepatitis B titer is always negative. I've been vaccinated multiple times.
Yeah. Wait, so what? You have no antibodies?
I guess.
What?
Every time they test me, like, you have to get the shot again. I'm like, I've had it multiple times. And for mumps, too. I have no titers or anything.
Are you sure?
Every time I'd have to go to, like...
let me tell you something. You might not be vaccinated because...
I am the youngest, and my parents cut a lot of corners with me.
I remember Mom... I don't think I was fully...
vaccinated. Yeah, well, our mom's a pediatrician.
Okay.
She would just sign
My mom would just sign off the... Back then, you could just...
we'll do it later.
Yeah. My mom would... I think she would bring home vaccines and chase us around the couch for 20 minutes. She'd be like, all right. That was it. I don't...
Measles it is.
You might have not gotten vaccinated.
Well, it's with MMR, and just my mumps titer is never
Oh,
there.
just your... Oh, that's weird. Okay.
Yeah.
You're not going to get the mumps.
Well...
Yeah, you might have the mumps. I don't know.
Okay. Okay, enough vaccines.
I can talk about this forever.
Well, do you have any? I mean, did we answer? So no adverse rate, like say you should have vaccinated your kid.
I've never. No.
Why'd you do that?
I've never had to say that.
Really?
When was the last time your opinion was the other way? Was it just
before
this
the
last
pandemic?
year?
Before the pandemic.
Okay, so the pandemic was.
Yeah, the pandemic and the COVID vaccine. I mean, that backfired on a lot of people. Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people lost trust in all vaccines. Wow. But I mean, if you think about it, okay, so then I went on a deep dive and I'm like, what are we giving? What are we putting in our children? And I'm a pawn in this scheme. And what am I? I'm going to like run to the mountains and like hide in a cave. And then I was like, well, now I have to question everything. Yeah. I really did have this like few months of like, what am I doing? And then I was like, Yeah, it is weird that we give the Hep B vaccine. Like the kid just came out of the mom's like womb and we're like already vaccinated. A kid gets Hep B. I'm like, hold on, what's that about? Because that seems like a money grab too. So I deep dove into that. You guys want to know why we give the?
Go for it.
Okay.
Hit it.
So I Googled it because I'm like, first of all, we screen pregnant mothers for their hepatitis B status.
Right.
So I'm like, so if the mom is negative, why are we so like concerned about Hep B in the hospital right away? Correct. Out of all the, I'm like, if anything, like give a polio or like a Hib. I'm like, that's something you can actually get. Yeah. So I was like, that's such a weird, arbitrary one to choose. So this is where it came from. In the 80s, with the HIV and AIDS pandemic, there like it was like this big thing in the 80s, and people were dying left and right, and and it was a virus. The HIV virus was spread through bodily fluids, blood, sex, all that stuff. So, and everyone was like it was like on the news, and people were dying, and and people were like, oh my God, the AIDS you're gonna get AIDS from a toilet seat, you're gonna get AIDS from a doorknob, and there was like this like fear mongering. So then I think the CDC honestly took the opportunity to prey on people's fears and say, well, there is a Hep B virus that's contracted the same way, and it's just as bad. So because this came up in the 80s during the AIDS pandemic. And they're like, don't worry, we'll vaccinate your children and they'll never get it and you'll never have to worry about it. And we'll vaccinate them against this other like HIV equivalent virus that can like take over your liver and, you know, you can die in a week and And so everyone was like, yes, of course. Yes, let's vaccinate our children. And so I think they just piggybacked on the fear of the AIDS pandemic. And they started offering it in hospitals, and people were like, yes, of course, vaccinate my kids because it was transmitted the same way.
Oh, and right away, right when they come out?
What do you mean? Yes.
Yeah, I know, but like why is
it
right
away?
Yes. Why right away? Yeah.
So I'm like, what's the point of screaming? Because there's no, is this kid's going to have sex and shoot IV drugs like in day 2 of their life? Like there's no real risk. It's not like it's a respiratory virus.
Right.
So I'm like, that's so weird. So what's the point of screening moms and seeing that they're negative, but you still need it, but you still, and we just say, yeah, sure. Okay. If you have it, of course. Yes. And it's just kind of perpetuated. Yeah. It's now tradition, but do we need it? I don't know. Yeah. So that's one I was like, what are we doing? TB screenings. I feel the same way. What are we doing? Why are we screening kids? Why do they need a negative TB test to start kindergarten if they were born and raised in the state of California? Right. Like I just feel like I'm now seeing the business side of vaccines because of the pandemic. And I'm like, oh, they've been doing this for a long time. Got it.
Okay.
It kind of I feel like I'm going to. It's back to the, we work for insurance companies. We work for insurance companies who have their interests.
Right. Because if you're not giving every vaccine, they're like, you're really low on your percentage of giving the HPV vaccine to your teen. And I'm like, listen, you need to chill out. Okay. Yeah.
All right. You heard it here first.
I'm going to lose my license. What's in this?
I think Pfizer's outside.
Pfizer's like, what?
This episode is definitely going to get buried.
Yeah.
100%.
Deep
I'm going to have suits at my door. You guys, if I have suits on my door, that's wild. Yeah.
Oh, then...
I will come back for a phase 2. I'll be like, guess who's in my office?
But I just want Pfizer to know I could be bought and sold. You can pay me whatever you want.
I have a price tag.
Yeah.
I'll give anyone any vaccine you want. Yeah.
That's funny.
Okay. So we're wrapping up here. Marian Iskander, pediatrician. I didn't mean to say your last name.
Has said too much.
Yeah. We can edit the last name.
I'm not going to edit anything.
Oh.
The last name.
Yeah, edit my last name.
We'll see.
It's not up to you anymore. It's already.
They're not going to know how to spell it. Okay, so wrapping up, is there any, this is the last question. If you could do it all over again to be a pediatrician, would you be a pediatrician or somewhere else in medicine?
No, I'd be a pediatrician.
Yeah,
Really?
you're too good at it.
Yeah.
You're too good at it.
I
You
don't.
can be nothing else.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I have no interest in touching adults. I just
That's
can't.
my wheelhouse.
Ugh.
Why?
I just. The human body is not a work of art.
It's not that you can't do something else. You're just so good at this.
Yeah.
I think I'm in my. I think I'm in my
you're in your
wheelhouse.
right
I think I'm
place.
in my wheelhouse. I like what I do. I don't think I can. I would have to be working with kids in some capacity. I'm not interested in adult medicine at all.
You would be a good adult medicine doctor. Too,
You think
but
so?
I think you would.
I'd be like, Edna Smith was 89. She died of a stroke. What are you going to do?
That's
She
the
lived a
beauty
life.
of adult medicine.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, I'll tell you why peds is good for me. I mean,
Okay.
I think it brings out the best of me as a physician because when a kid is sick, you are like, this is a child.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is not only your patient, this is someone's kid.
Right.
Like, you better work for
Yeah.
this kid.
Yeah,
I
and the
mean, this
pressure's
is
on.
high stakes.
Yeah,
You
correct.
cannot mess up. For me, and I'm not saying adult medicine is like whatever. I'm not making a comment about adult medicine. I'm just saying for me, I'd be like, yeah, we tried. I don't know. He was 85. What are you gonna do? Like, he was gonna die anyway. I don't know. I just feel like I'm always at 100% effort, like really going to bat because this could be my kid, and oh my god, and so you work hard for every kid.
All right.
It's a noble motivation.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, Dr. Marianne, thank you.
Awesome.
You're welcome.
We love to have you back if Joe allows it. We'll talk-
Joe?
We'll see.
He's like, okay, we're done.
We'll see what Pfizer does.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see if Pfizer comes talking.
Well, we want to have your husband on for pediatric critical care because I don't know why anyone would want to do that.
I don't
And
know
then,
why he would want to do that either.
I have a lot of questions for him.
Yeah.
That's going to be the saddest podcast you've ever
You
then
don't
this
even
one
need
kid
to be
dies.
there. I just want to. We could
In
set
this
up
heartbreaking episode of Off Call,
Yeah.
we have, it's, he's got
Wow.
some stories, but he's got some nice, good stories. You know, kids pull through, so
Now we
it's
want
not
to hear
all.
the bad ones.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, everyone follow us on Instagram, Off Call, on Instagram, YouTube, wherever you could find us. Dr. Marianne, thank you.
Wait, and Medpop Apparel.
Yeah, there's
so,
Medpop
okay,
Apparel.
so guys, I have an apparel line
Mhm.
geared towards healthcare workers, made by a healthcare worker.
That's all
for-
the time we have. Just
No,
kidding.
for the workers. I have
music.
designed T-shirts, sweatshirts, and decal stickers. Go to Medpop Apparel. You can find me on Etsy, or you can go to medpopapparel.com. Check out my, it's not really merch, but like my apparel line. I'm very proud of it. You'll love it.
Yeah, make sure to go check it out.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Here we go. Back to this. Where we should have started.
Yeah, I know. All right.
That was too good.
Was it good?
I loved it. That was excellent. Very informative. I learned a lot.